minutes after 8 o'clock, and joining us in studio this morning, Chaves County Manager Bill Williams back with us this morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing today?
Doing well. Sorry we're so late this month.
Well, it's my fault on some of this too, so I appreciate you working with me and scheduling and everything else. So, but it's kind of a busy time for commission and county right now because we're right in the heart of budget talks and all that, aren't we?
Budget, we had to reschedule our meeting a week early, and then last week, Commissioners Bill Berry and Cavan and myself went to Nebraska for the Stop the 30 by 30 Summit.
Okay.
Working towards raising awareness of what the federal government's opportunities to take land are.
Gotcha.
And the way that they're going about it. And so we spent that week, and then, of course, we're just now getting back to the county commission meeting that happened.
And for folks who don't realize that those kind of fights that you're talking about there, this is kind of supporting like-minded counties and municipalities, and basically there's strength in numbers. So whenever any time you're going after the feds about stuff like this, the more entities on board, the more powerful the cause.
Yeah, the Western way of life is totally different, as you know, from the Eastern way of life.
Yeah.
And there's big population centers back east, and tens of millions of people living in a little place, and they love the sound of, let's turn 30% of our nation's lands and waters into areas that are
on paper. It's delightful.
Permanent conservation status. What does that mean? That's one of the questions we ask. So what's conservation mean? And we get an answer like, how would I know? I'm not a biologist.
You're making the rules up.
They just make stuff up.
Yeah.
Well, they don't understand that, New Mexico, Chaves County in particular, is already 60% government-owned land in Chaves County. So where are they going to get this additional? It's not the lands that they already have that they want. It'd be real easy to say, we've already set aside more than 30% of our nation, and we'll change the way we're managing a few things and be okay. No, they don't want that. They want additional lands. And people in big cities, they don't understand. Yeah, go ahead and take all the farm and ranch land that you want.
Sure.
Eventually that catches up with you.
Yeah.
And that's a real serious problem. And of course, we had some really heavy hitters at this summit. We had senators and congressmen and national talk show hosts and lots of different things there.
So some of the power behind the what we deem is what makes common sense here.
Well, if someone went into the city and says, I'm here from the government, I'm here to help. We're going to take 30% of your apartment from you, and you don't know which 30%. We're just going to take the 30%, and we're going to set that aside and can't be used anymore. You can't go in there dust. You can't, fix the air conditioner. You can't do anything. Right. It's going to be ours, and you have no say in the matter. Well, that would change people's opinions quite a bit, but they feel like that's absolutely fine to go and do to farmers, ranchers, our way of life out west, where there's open lands. They think, this is great, but it's not great.
And we've actually, I was talking with Drew from the Chaves County Extension Office.
Yes.
Agricultural expert.
Absolutely, and grew up right here.
Yeah. And we were having a conversation a little bit about these lands and all that stuff, and really what he said is the genie's already out of the bottle here, and what we're saying is these lands, these wilderness lands and things, man's already been there. Man's already been a part of it, and now if we leave, we're going to make the ecosystem worse than we started. And what he means by that is, it's like when they want to turn it to wilderness. Well, guess what? Now they're not thinning out forests, which means there's greater chances of wildfires. Which
you think
by
that's
the way,
a bad idea?
And wildlife. I've talked about the owl several times, but that's a perfect example. That was a spotted owl, or which owl it is one of the owls that basically they took a piece of its hunting ground and said this is wilderness, and it got overgrown, and now they can't hunt there, and so now they're hanging out in more urban places
where they get hit by cars.
Yeah, where they're trying to find food because they can't go to their hunting grounds because they can't see nothing.
Do you think any carbon comes off of a forest fire?
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe more than a car might put out. And
so that's what they're not getting. It's like, no. I get what you're saying. We don't want to turn these into malls and parking lots. We don't want to either.
Absolutely.
That's not what we're doing. But you know what? As far as grazing and this land, and mitigating that kind of stuff and going through and making sure certain types of vegetation aren't there or things like that. All of that's part of the ecosystem, and our role in it is very vital now.
And they manage for certain species, which is kind of crazy. Okay, so we're going to make sure that this species comes back, but that species eats 3 other species.
Yes.
What, you know?
Sure.
And then somewhere down the road, they're going to say, uh-oh, this species is bad. Now we've got to take care of it. But it eats the one that you just got off the endangered list.
And to be honest, that's man. Man already did this. You know, when we talk about, we have some, go to Bitter Lake and they talk about the work that's to conservation. You know what half their battle is? They're fighting plant life and things that aren't native to this area because man somehow has dawned and brought things over, and now we've got animals in certain places and vegetation in certain places that ideally that's not where it's supposed to be. And some of it's is taking out the native stuff and all that.
Well,
and so we've got to be there to mitigate that.
And the thing is, we don't need someone to come in and save us hillbillies from ourselves. We
Sure.
don't, you know, those corn pones, they don't understand how to manage their lands and all. Actually, people in the West take very good care of their land. They're good stewards of the lands. They care about the wildlife. I mean, you can't hardly walk down the street and not meet someone who's a hunter or a fisherman, and of course they want to take care of that. A farmer and a rancher has to make sure that the range is in good shape to provide for his cattle, which ultimately provides for his family.
Yeah.
And you know, they're already good stewards, but people in cities don't understand that. They think they need to come and ride in and save the day.
Sure.
As if they could ride a white horse, you know, they fall off. But, But you know,
they're going to come in here and wave a pen and make everything magic again.
Right.
Yeah.
And you know, so it's kind of an offensive thing. And of course, the president doesn't have that ability to condemn lands basically across the U.S. And then they make other statements such as, oh, we're not going to condemn any lands. We're not going to take them by eminent domain. We're only going to take lands from willing sellers. However, they're doing things like there's one House bill right now, and I don't recall which number it is, $1.3 billion to be used to purchase lands. So they go in and they offer 3 times the price. The poor people, you know, what would you do?
Yeah, if someone throws you a big stack of money to walk away, that's
They
tempting.
buy a big connecting piece, and then they go after the other ones. Then your land's no longer good because they also have these buffer zones where if you're near a corridor or conservation
so they're cutting
area,
off resources to
the
neighbors.
lands next door, oh, I'm sorry, but you can't graze your cattle there anymore because that will affect our corridor, just like the wild and scenic rivers. I mean, there's program after program after program that the government is doing right now. Waters of the U.S., the dry riverbed in your backyard could be a nexus to a navigable waterway down in the Gulf of Mexico. What? Yeah, so if your cow has manure there and it flows into the river and in 5 years that little piece of water going from one dry riverbed to one dry riverbed in the times when it rains, you know, could pollute a navigable waterway.
Sure. Well,
by the time it gets there, it's going to be so diluted it wouldn't matter. But now you can't graze your cattle there because that footprint will hold water, and you know, there's just
explain to me how that could impact the water, but that city that's 100 miles away that's tapped right into the same streams and aquifers via some other river channels not doing any different. That makes no sense to me.
Right.
Do you think that poop that came from over here is going to be much worse than the thousands of whatever else of gallons of stuff you sent down the river from the city?
From a dry riverbed that actually we'll never get there.
Exactly. Yeah, we'd have to have, I guess, an ice age or something for it.
But with the waters of the U.S., there's a big push to have the EPA regulate everything having to do with the waterway. So every time it rains, you would have to get a 404 permit. I've got a dry riverbed in my backyard, literally a dry riverbed, the South Spring River. So every time it rains, I would have to get a 404 permit from the government so they can manage that and make sure that whatever ran off in there didn't pollute anything the 5 years from now when that little piece of manure got all the way to the Gulf of Mexico. It's going to be gone by the time it gets there anyway. But you know, we're going to help you manage this. You know, we know you don't have time to put in a permit every single time it rains. So tell you what, we'll just take over that section of river and we'll manage it the way it is. Well, then all of a sudden you can't have your cows anywhere near there. What are your kids doing out here running around? You know, it's just one thing after another. We're here to help, and that's not helpful. The wild and scenic rivers, there's a push right now to, you know, they did the rivers. They said, well, we own these rivers. They're going through federal lands or whatever, and so we're going to call them wild and scenic rivers. But now they're asking for a buffer zone on either side of the river, which is take. You know, oh, no, we're not taking anyone's land. It's still their private property. Yes, but they can't manage it.
Sure,
they
you
can't
can't do
use it
nothing
the
with
way
it.
that they want it because it is now set aside because it's a buffer next
But they
to
get to pay taxes on it.
But they get to pay taxes on it, which, by the way, the federal government, when they take over this stuff, they don't pay taxes or they pay a very reduced rate.
Yeah.
So there are so many problems with the 30 by 30, and we went and heard a lot of people with CRP lands, conservation reserve programs, coming in and saying, my father did this 30 years ago, and if we had known that that was going to affect everything else, we would have never done it. He would have never done that. It caused the rest of our ranch to be lost because of the hidden stuff in the documents. And you know, there's a big push too. Conservation lands, once they're conservation lands, it's in perpetuity. And so there's a lot of push to say, okay, let's limit that, because things that happened in 1970, 1950, our world has changed a lot.
Sure.
And if you put something in a permanent status, you don't know what the next 100 years is going to bring.
Absolutely.
So they are trying now to minimize those so that they don't run in perpetuity, that there is, it runs for 30 years, runs for 50 years, whatever. But, you know, at some point that land's going to go back, possibly back to a conservation reserve or to some other productive use, depending on what it is. But if we set aside 30% of our lands and waters in the U.S., worldwide actually is what they're after, that's a problem. And then the true goal is the half Earth, 50% of the lands and waters. And you can look all this stuff up. You know, you might think I'm a conspiracy theorist, but all this stuff is true. Agenda 21, look that one up if you want some stuff that started many years ago. And we don't need that. We don't need that. And is it really going to help global warming to put something in permanent conservation status? Or can you even tell me what that means?
Sure.
You know, if it's all like wild forests that are overgrown and burning, how is that going to help anything?
Well,
So-
and if you're looking at it, you know, these places aren't the problem areas to begin with. You know what
Right.
I mean? You're putting Band-Aids on things that aren't bleeding. That's what, you know,
Right.
that's what doesn't make sense. It's like, okay, I get you want to make it, but to be honest, you want to really working our environment. Let our oil companies and everybody drill here, because guess what? They're under the regulations that we're all talking about. Go to China, go to Russia, the places where they want us to buy oil, and ask them how they're doing about the environment while they're pulling that oil out.
Right,
And I
right.
guarantee it's nowhere near what regulations.
Well, in
and
this
stuff are
30 by
happening here.
30 stuff, you know, there's a big push for international agencies to manage and run these. I thought it was going to be closed off. And
Yeah.
you know, you can't have it both ways.
Sure.
There are companies actually vying for the management of these so-called closed environmental protection areas. Well, if they're closed and you're not going to do anything to them, who needs to manage it? So it all comes down to the money, like it always does. And I encourage everyone that's listening to look up 30 by 30, 30 by 30 land grab, however you want. You're going to see a lot of biased stuff. We just went to Lincoln, Nebraska, and had a deal. They had trucks running around outside that liars are coming to Nebraska to take away our rights to do this and that and all kinds of things. You'll read many articles that are slanted one way, but you'll also find a few that aren't. And you'll find out what's truly going on. You'll find out that Senator Kramer came and spoke to us about it. He's doing the Stop 30 by 30 termination in the Senate. Lauren Boebert from Colorado, she came and spoke from the representative side, U.S. representative side. She's presenting the Stop the 30 by 30 termination, or 30 by 30 termination act in the House. We had Governor Pete Ricketts, the first governor, to come on board and say, this is a bad idea, let's do it. And we now have, I think it's 18 governors, Western state governors that are against this, have come out against it. Do they advertise that? No, they advertise the 3 that have come out all for it.
Sure.
And you know, it's crazy. They make out like, oh, everybody's overwhelmingly in support of this, except for a few of these eccentrics that are, you know, anti-government. And everyone that was there was very pro-government. We all believe in America, and we believe in America the way it should be, and not overrun by bureaucrats.
Unfortunately, we live in that world now where people are trained to think. You know, if you slightly think that the government is doing something that's not right, and you speak out about it, you're a problem.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the
and
world
what's
we
really
live in now.
interesting is the attacks made by the left, the articles that are written. You can tell which ones are based on fact. There's a few out there that present both sides very equally and balanced, which is very unusual these days. most of the ones are attacking people. They're liars, but there's no proof of any of it. And then the other articles are saying, here's where we stand and here's why. Here's the facts behind it.
Yep.
And they say, you didn't get the right facts, you're lying. It's like, come on, read these articles. I encourage everyone, look it up for yourself and see if you believe whether or not we need to actually conserve 30% of our lands and waters. And like I say, it's not that anyone's against protecting and doing what we can to make things better within our nation and within our world, but it's got to stop somewhere.
Sure.
And if people need to give, maybe it's the people back east and the people out west who've been tapped out. If they had to give to the extent that we have out west, they wouldn't be so gung ho.
And we in the middle have to really be more cognizant of what extreme thinkers are telling us, and that's the problem. And it's on both sides, right. Left. I mean, that's the problem is we've had. And maybe this is the technology world, now that we have social media and literally you can communicate with anybody in the matter of seconds in this world nowadays, right. Which is good and bad. And to be honest, we've had these extreme voices throughout history. They just didn't have a platform that could get to everybody. And now they do. And I really think they're swaying people with these extreme things on both sides. And so it's either you're for us or against this mentality right now because of that. Right. And so now legislation like this that really needs good debate, talk, you know what I'm saying? We need to get people look, I understand what they're trying to do and in some ways, and that's what they're okay, can we do both? Right. Can we do what you're saying and say, yeah, okay, we do need to be better stewards of our land. Okay, but we don't need to lock it all down and throw everybody out to do that.
Right.
And so, but that's the extreme thinkers. They're saying you either need to lock it down or you're against it and you don't for climate. And that's not what's going on here.
Right. I mean, there's a balance to everything. And I believe that we're actually not that far off from the way things maybe should be. Mm-hmm. Probably need some areas. There are places with 97% federal lands in their county or lands that are not in private ownership.
Sure.
And how do they exist? They have real trouble. We heard from a lot of people with that. Some areas they may need some more conservation.
Yeah.
But I tend to believe that probably more of that is back east than it is out west. But certainly out west, we have given till it hurts, and agriculture and the businesses that we have, oil and gas. You cannot shut down oil and gas. Where are they going to get the rubber tires for the electric cars if we shut down oil and gas? Just some common sense things like that. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go so far into that.
Well, and I think this is where politics has made so confusing. And I think yesterday's a great example of it. Because for those that haven't heard, Elon Musk finally made his bid purchase Twitter yesterday, and the left world's going crazy because they're conflicted. They're ready to ban Twitter, which is ironically funny because Elon Musk wants to do the opposite of that if Trump gets on there. But at the same time, they're all like, but he sells electric cars, and so the liberals are fighting with themselves, saying ban Elon Musk, and everyone's like, well, he did help us with electric cars. So it's funny to watch people that are so dyed-in-the-wool on making their stupid arguments and sharing their lib of TikTok talks and all that stuff, and now they're at a point where they can't pick which part of their stupid argument do they need to side for. It's like, well, and at the end of the day, Elon Musk, and I don't care what your opinion is in one way or another, but everything I've heard from that man since he's talked about buying Twitter is saying, no, I want everybody on board. I don't want, that's the whole point, free speech. Yeah. And he goes, would I bring Trump back? Yes. And I bring back the clowns that are against him too, because this is what I want it for. And now everyone's saying free speech is gone. And it's like, are you not listening to what he says? He's doing the opposite of what you're saying he's doing with Twitter. And they're all ready to, the same thing is says, if so-and-so does this, I'm leaving this country. And everyone's doing that.
Oh, yeah. And how many of them have left the country?
Yeah,
every time. I'll leave the country. Well, goodbye. Let me buy the ticket. Let me escort you out.
They
never leave.
There's many countries on this planet that probably ideally line right up with your politics.
And they'll move there and they'll start complaining about what they're doing there. Yeah. Just like the people that come from out of state to Chaves County come here, then they want to change us. Yeah. We've been here a long time. We know what we need. We know what makes this community work, and we appreciate it. Not that we don't invite other people here, but assimilate. Don't change us.
You don't go to someone's house and start telling them that they change the decor and change everything.
Well, I hate this carpet. Get it out of here.
Yeah, that's what people are doing. It's like, well, it's my house. You go and change your carpet, knock yourself out. This is my house. So.
Right.
But anyway, yeah.
Okay, back to the county commission.
Yeah, let's
meeting.
talk county commission meeting. Let's get some highlights from that.
I mean, thank you so much for letting me talk, and I hope that maybe we can come back and talk some more about the 30 by 30. And like I say, I just really encourage people to look it up on your own. You'll spot right away where the issues are.
Educate yourself.
You can really be educated. There's some amazingly intelligent people out there that understand this much better than I do. So we had our county commission meeting on April the 14th, like I say, a week early. And then, of course, we couldn't come in last week, so we're here this week. First thing we had was we have our usual presentations. You know, the Chamber of Commerce, the EDC comes in, Mike Spiritu comes in and talks to us. Mike wasn't there this time, but we did have the Chamber of Commerce came in and talked to us. We talked about the Rise with Roswell breakfast, which was a great success.
Had a big success there.
And this time they had a comedian, Tim Moffat was his name. And he was hilarious. You know, he talked about agricultural comedian. So if you can imagine the things that are funny on a farm or to a rancher or a farmer, he was your guy. He really hit the nail on the head.
A lot of farming inside jokes there.
Very, very good stuff. And you know, it was a twist from the way we normally do things, or the way they normally do things with the Rise with Roswell.
Yeah.
Kind of a little different way of doing it. And it was great. It was a huge success. They did a great job.
Yeah.
I want to tell them thanks again for all the great work you're doing.
Tip a cap to the chamber of staff for pulling that off.
They're great. They really are.
Yep.
We had a presentation from the USDA, APHIS, Animal Damage Control.
Okay.
Chaves County supports them every year, and around budget time, we like to get them in there, the leaders, and have them come in and say, can you give us an update what's been going on?
Yeah.
As it turns out, their local office kind of merged, I think, with their Albuquerque office. So they actually drove down from Albuquerque to tell us what's going on. We still have our local people that work here, that do all the work on the ground. And
a lot of the decisions come out of Albuquerque.
But the management comes from up there, the administrative portion of it. But, you know, they'll do anything from, you know, take care of if you have a coyote problem, if you have a gopher problem, you know, skunks, whatever.
They're kind of a catch-all for all that.
You give them a call, they'll find a way to correct whatever animal damage problem you might have. Wild hogs, you know, that's still an issue. And some places it's huge, you know. But, feral pigs are
Are they still getting in the helicopters and everything and doing some of that,
they do a lot of stuff
that?
through helicopter use. But anyway, they came and gave us an update, overview, and an update on that, and we really appreciate all the work that they do. The local guys, like say, they are all in. We get calls all the time. I want to just thank you guys for the guys you sent out to get the gophers at my house. It's like, we didn't send them out, but thank you. You know, and we'll make sure they get the, and we do support them monetarily, and that's why we talk to them at budget.
Sure. Well, and that's just it. Anytime the county gives money to support an entity, a profit, nonprofit, whatever organization, really one of really the only string is that you come back and report on what you're doing with that money, because they want to make sure that you're being a good steward. At the end of the day, that's one of the main charges of your county commission, is making sure that they're good stewards of the taxpayer money. And so this is part of that check and balance, to make sure that, all right, we're giving you money, what are you doing with it? And that's kind of the report that they get every, I guess, year on that. So.
Yeah, at least once a year.
Yeah.
We really strive to make sure at least once a year. Most entities that we deal with come on a regular basis and give us updates and let us know what's going on. We had a few proclamations. We had 4 proclamations. We had Character Counts proclamation, because they were getting ready to do the
Character Counts week last week.
Honor the badge and everything, you know, that's taken place.
Teachers of character, all that stuff. Yeah.
Character Counts, what a great deal. You know,
a great event.
To bring to awareness all the good people that are in our community, rather than, you know, the bad stuff that you always hear time and time again. This is about the good people and the good things people are doing.
That silent majority of great qualified people that just do their job and help people day in and day out.
And you know, we're honored to be able to provide a proclamation for them every week. And to, you know, they have some events at the Chaves County Commission chambers. And so we're glad to be a part of that, and want to thank them for all their tireless work. Yeah. It doesn't just happen during Character Counts week. I mean, they do it year round. Firefighters, the law enforcement, all of them are great. So
we give them a little special recognition, and each of the first responding entities in our county get a chance to separate, you know, the ones that are the cream of the crop from their own, and we recognize those folks, and that's what.
And
it's
you
all
gave me a
about.
perfect segue when you
Yeah.
said first responding.
Yeah.
So the Pecos Valley Regional Communication Center, they're public safety telecommunicators. And Public Safety Telecommunicators Week, that's harder to say than you think it is.
Is that just dispatch at the end of the day? Is that the fancy word for dispatch?
April the 10th to the 16th was
Nice.
Public Safety Telecommunicators Week.
Okay.
And so we did a proclamation honoring them and thanking them for all the hard work that they do. The city did a very similar thing for them. People brought pizza by to them, just a pat on the back and an attaboy, you're doing a great job.
They are. Well, they're really the calming voice in the storm for many people. That's what they do. And
man, it's amazing what they do and know, and the way their system has progressed through the years. If someone calls up and they're having a baby, they can type that into their console or whatever, and it gives instructions just in case someone needs to tell someone how to deliver a baby over the phone.
Yeah, because
they've got the information.
Initially, they're the triage. They're
Right.
the first line of defense when it comes to an emergency situation. And so sometimes they've got to do first aid or advise on that phone while first responders get on the scene. And then while they're doing all that, they're filling in the first responders on the that
On
are
the
approaching
backside, right.
every piece of information they can. So when they get there, they're not flying blind. They are knowing exactly what's going on, and they can get right in and do what needs to be done.
And they do that in multiple languages.
Yeah.
Here we have a license for the Spanish language. So someone, because that comes up pretty regularly. But like in California, for instance, they might have Vietnamese, and they would have someone on staff that if someone called and needed help in that language, they would be able to read and assist in that language. Here we have Spanish and, of course, English. So
the role of the dispatcher, they really have to be like the most sound-minded people.
And cool and calm and collected. I could never do it. I'd be so... Well, you hear me get excited just talking about 30 by 30.
Well,
Can you imagine if it was an emergency?
Yeah, and so, yes, you're right. It is a skill set that not all humans can do, and we are very appreciative of the work the dispatch folks do day in and day out. It really is a thankless job, but pretty much on a given day, they're responsible for saving a life. Even in their regular course of the day, they're doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's just old hat to them. What'd you do this week? I saved a few people.
It's
hang my cape up, would you? That's kind of cool.
Fixed a couple people that were dealing with choking hazards. We had stopped a robbery in progress. We did all that happened all in one week. It's crazy. So
it's amazing stuff. We also had Motorcycle Awareness Week, proclamation for that.
Okay.
And one that I'm real happy about and real excited is County Employee Month. And County Employee Month is the month of April. And we took it one step further, and we decided we were going to do County Employee Day and honor the county employees on this Thursday, April the 28th.
Okay.
So we're going to close for a little longer at lunchtime and
have a little
provide lunch,
little shindig
for all the people. So we'll close from about 11 to 1:30, something like that.
So if you got county businesses Thursday,
do it a little early, a little later. Please bear with us. We apologize if you come from out of town, but go have a hamburger or something and come back and
we're
meet our
celebrating.
great staff. I mean, we've got that's what makes our county work so well is the good staff, all the different areas.
Good. Well,
that
hopefully
they come together and work.
Hopefully, some of the law enforcement, road crews, and the folks that are they work 24/7. Hopefully, they're able to take off a little time during that time and
just
come
get a
in
few
and
minutes
celebrate.
And have a little bit of company fun. Kind of. With everyone else. So we got in after the proclamations. We went into some public hearings. We had 2 public hearings for community solar. And, that's different than commercial solar, of course. And we also had a public hearing regarding selling industrial revenue bonds for the Next Era Solar, which is out on Pine Lodge. They're adding an additional 30 megawatt, which will make that 170 megawatt total. The community solar, however, those are voted on both through planning and zoning or the ETZ, depending on where they're located at. And because they usually require a special use permit because they're going into a area that's not zoned for solar.
Gotcha.
And so there were 2 that were out in the East Grand Plains area, and they were actually voted down because the neighbors came out and said, we don't really feel like that fits with what should be out here.
Okay.
And both the Planning and Zoning Commission, who voted it down, and the commissioners listened to what everyone had to say and had to do their job. You know, it's never easy. You don't want to make those decisions sometimes,
Sure.
but it's difficult. And when the neighbors come out in force to say this is what we want, they do listen, and they have to
Absolutely.
do that. So did that. We had the annual road hearing. We only had 7 roads this year. We have 3.
So light fare for this
Very
year.
light. We have 3 little short roads right near Roswell that people asked to vacate, and we had 4 roads out at Buena Vita that they asked the county to take over.
Okay.
Or Buena Vita asked for 3 of them, and one of the people that
So
lived
it's a
there
net
asked
zero when
outside.
if both work, then it's a net zero on street or miles gained
Right.
or lost. So.
And then actually yesterday, because first thing we do, and we've talked about this before, is we take the applications in January, February. Then we appoint the freeholders. The freeholders go out, look at the roads, and make their recommendation. It goes back to the county commissioner. This is what the freeholders said about these roads. Some roads are disqualified right off the bat, depending on what the freeholders say.
Gotcha.
So this year, all the roads went through, goes to the commissioners. They have their public hearing. People can come up and say, I'm for it, I'm against it. And then the commissioners themselves go out and look at the roads. They did that yesterday.
Okay.
And it only took about 2 hours. It was very unusual. Some years we go from the far corners of the county to the far corners of the county, and it takes all day. And,
Sure.
and we
County's
have-
a lot bigger than people think, and you don't realize it till you drive
Right.
it.
and we have to have 3 vehicles every time we take them because we cannot have a quorum when they stop and get
yeah.
out, because it's actually a meeting. We have to advertise it as a public hearing, a
Yeah.
public meeting. So we advertise it, and we put times, that approximate times they're going to arrive at each site. So if anyone wants to be there when all 5 of them get together,
Okay.
then they're in session, and then they basically recess as they get in their 3 vehicles, drive 100 miles to the next site, whatever. They all get out and meet.
Okay.
So they did that yesterday, and so
Okay.
next week or next month they will have their final decisions on the road here
Gotcha.
and stuff. So
I'm just out of curiosity. Well, we really don't have time, but I'm just curious. Like, once it gets to that point, how often does it turn? Like usually, if it's to that point, the legwork's been done, and I mean, how often does a road change from a decision being changed from it becoming a road or whatever? When the commission, like, does the commission often shoot it down, or generally most of the time that all that logistics been worked out, and so for the commissions, it's mostly signing off? Or I was just curious.
most of the time, if it's a status change for road, if someone wants their private road
Yeah.
converted to a county road, the commissioners will listen. They say, here's the rules. If you follow these rules, we'll happily take it on. It's a non-county maintained road, same thing. Here's what you're going to have to do to bring it up to standards.
Yeah.
We'll happily do it. But when it comes to road vacations, now that's different, because there are so many criteria there and so many
Okay.
people. It's a totally different thing.
So adding a
And
road's
that can
pretty
be-
formality.
Yeah.
As long as you meet the things, but
it can be
the other
pretty
way is where it gets in the
contentious
weeds.
if you want to vacate a road, because
Okay.
first of all, there are certain types of roads you can't vacate. If it's primary access to public lands, it cannot be vacated,
Right.
because we have to provide access to the public lands. If it's a farm and market road, if it's a dedicated school bus road, which most of our roads are not dedicated to school bus anymore like they used to be back years ago.
Gotcha.
But anyway, there's several criteria, and they can't do that. And sometimes it's kind of a gray area. Now, does this provide primary access to public lands, or is it just an additional access? And so then they have to weigh all that out, and that can get really contentious.
Gotcha.
And, you know, but anyway, they do a good job. They really do take everything into consideration.
Very thorough about
That's
it.
why the freeholders are so important, because they're a neutral third party that comes in and says, yeah, we think this.
They don't have a dog in the fight. They can see it from
this
afar.
could be heard, and then it goes from there. But
Makes
so
sense.
anyway, we thank
Just
the
curious.
freeholders for their part doing
Yeah.
that and helping, and the commissioners. That it's never an easy job, but it is their job, so they do
Yeah.
it. So quickly, I guess.
Yeah, real quick. We got about. Well, we got less than a minute, really.
Okay. Well, Chaves County appreciates all that you do for us, and we thank you for that. We're going to have some stuff happening at the courthouse. They've got the, what is this one coming? The Cinco de Mayo's coming up
Cinco de
next
Mayo's-
weekend.
Yeah, the 7th, I believe.
Yeah, the 6th, 7th, and 8th.
Yeah, I
maybe.
believe it's that weekend,
Friday,
yeah.
Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah.
On the 7th, there's a car show in the parking lot on Virginia Street. The Pecos Valley Vintage Car Club is going to do their car show in conjunction with the Cinco de Mayo. But you have to come in down either Virginia or 6th
Okay.
or
Just follow
or
the
3rd
signs.
Street. Yeah, but get in there and go see all the cars over there. they've done that for years on Mother's Day weekend, and it's 46 years actually that they've been having that car show. So that's
Gonna be
a
a
good
part of
thing.
history there.
I don't see anything that really has to be said, so I'm going to stop and
Quit while you're ahead, huh?
yeah, and thanks to all the people that show up to our meetings. That we really appreciate it when the public comes out.
Absolutely.
Whether it's because they have something of interest or they're just interested in finding out. But the last commission meeting was one of those where we had several people come in to express their opinions and concerns. We also have the thing at the end where citizens can make statements. No action will be taken, but Rita Kane Dorhofer comes up almost every time and talks about all the good that Keep Chaves County Beautiful does, and kind of gives us an update on the backside. We appreciate all the involvement of people at the county commission meetings.
It's hard for the county commission to do their job without the input from the citizens they represent.
Right,
So,
and
to do that,
we've got good commissioners.
yeah.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, sir. Appreciate the visit as
welcome.
always, and we look forward to our next one here down the road.
Yes, thank you.
It is 8:50.